A lot of students are seeing now that more and more law schools are taking GRE in lieu of the LSAT. And so I was wondering what your thoughts are for the average applicant in this situation. If the LSAT is looking a little bit tough for them, is the GRE a good alternative? When do you think that might be a good idea for students to take it, or when should they stick with the LSAT?
Yeah, I mean, they're two very different tests. And so for some people, they find that they do better on one or the other. There's this conversion tool on the ETS website, right, which is sort of the official conversion tool. I have my doubts about that conversion tool because when I see people taking both the GRE and the LSAT, they actually have an LSAT score to compare it to. It's very often, the real LSAT is very often quite a bit lower than the converted LSAT score that's showing up on the conversion tool. So, I think it's an experiment. I think I applaud it. For so long, law school admissions has been, set in stone, and you've seen very little changes over the years and the decades. MBA programs, for example, innovate all the time. Good for them. So this is exciting. This is a big deal when law schools finally start trying new things like this. So I think that's still very much in flux. As I'm sure you know, there are something like 200 ABA-approved law schools. Only a fraction of them are accepting a GRE at this time. I'm sure that's changing. That's constantly in flux. There's been some weirdnesses. For example, I don't know if you heard about this hoo-ha at GW Law School, which announced it was accepting the GRE, and then after the application season opened, they changed their mind. And they actually left a few applicants hanging. I think most applicants have both if they're going to do the GRE, but there were some applicants who had only a GRE score, and to my knowledge, they were just out of luck. So, there's a lot of funny stuff going on there, but I expect that range to just get bigger and bigger of schools that will be accepting the GRE. For applicants who haven't done either one, I suggest doing a diagnostic test under time conditions. Just see how you do cold, not the real thing. These are the practice ones. And see if one plays more to your strength than the other. And of course, the GRE has a math section, and as we all know, there are plenty of people who go to law school because they think of themselves as bad at math. And I feel a little bit sorry for them because you do have to have some facility with math and some numeracy to be a good lawyer. But they can kind of avoid that in the application stage. So see which test plays more to your strengths. Maybe it's the LSAT, maybe it's the GRE. I would say once you have a good handle on which one plays more to your strengths, put your chips all in. Don't try to sort of spread yourself between two different tests. I think prepping for one test is hard enough. And then commit. Yeah, is that your sense as well?
To a large extent, I do think that, of course, if you can get a higher percentile rank on one than the other, you definitely want to go with that. But at the same time, I do suspect that the applicant pool is a little bit different, those taking the GRE versus those taking the LSAT. The LSAT is a more select group and more specialized. And so I would think you might get a 97th percentile on the GRE. And as you indicated, that conversion tool, 97th percentile GRE may not translate into 97th percentile on the LSAT. And then also the GRE has more of the math verbal breakdown. The LSAT doesn't have such a formalized breakdown. And although most students will know that maybe on their first diagnostic ever, games aren't going to go well. And so I think to some extent, applicants should trust that their games scores especially will improve with time. I'm obviously biased because the LSAT's what I do, not the GRE. Thanks for tuning into the show. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already to be notified of new episodes as I release them. And feel free to reach out if you need anything at all as you move forward with your prep. I'm happy to help however I can. In the meantime, I'll wish you all the best and take care.